Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit.
You know, I tried out for The Bachelorette.
Oh my gosh.
Or Bachelor.
See, isn't this so crazy how the universe is just bringing me?
Yeah.
The universe is doing this.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
And I'm doing it too.
So you were going to be one of the women.
I was going to be a woman, yeah.
Oh my God. So
of
wait,
many.
How did they not pick you? I don't
well,
understand.
I did get picked.
You
so
did?
It was a different time back then. It was, I'm going to age myself drastically during this, which I'm fine with. 2015, it was at a Gahanna pub, and they did an open casting. And I went in, there was hundreds of girls, and they take you in this room. I don't know how they do it now, but they take you in this room. There's all these producers and cameras that are just lining this. It was like one of the, I don't know, the dining rooms there. And they ask you a bunch of questions, and you can hear other people talking. So it's like speed dating, but with yourself. It's very chaotic. And then they were like, okay, we'll call you for next steps. And I'm like, you don't mind me asking, I'm 26 years old. I just told you my age. What are the next steps? They're like, oh, there's a psychiatric evaluation. And then they're like, we need to do a background check and we need to do a credit check. And I'm like looking at my bank account and I'm like, okay, so what's in it for me if I sign up for this? And they're like, well, nothing. You have to buy all your own clothes. You have to pay your way there. And at the time, social media was had barely existed. So there wasn't that NIL opportunity in my peripheral vision that I could see. So I went to my boss. I was like, yeah, so I got this opportunity to potentially go out to LA and compete. And at the time, it would have been Juan Pablo. Oh my God. I would have been Claire.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You dodged a bullet.
God has been doing and moving mountains for me since then. But yeah, and then so I guess it wasn't meant to be.
I tried out for Survivor.
Oh.
The second for Survivor that was in Australia.
Oh my gosh.
I made it to the semifinals.
Whoa.
Yes. I mean, I was like, you don't understand. I jumped out of an airplane. I had a friend dressed
for the show?
Oh, for my video. I was like in a tree, like pretending to kill
I need
cows.
to see the footage.
We can't find it.
Oh my gosh.
No, it got me on it was like 60,000 applicants. I made it to like less than 500 or something.
Of course you did.
I went to Chicago. All the lights were on me. And I had like been real aggressive in my my form, like talking about like all kinds of like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they were going to typecast me as like a slut, you know, a slutty bitch. Well, then when I got to Chicago and they were like, would you have point blank, would you have a one night stand on the island?
Sure.
I didn't. I went totally limp.
Oh my God.
We're talking,
literally,
like my vag, went all the way up into. So,
I would have been like, where do you want my legs to go?
Oh no, literally, I don't know what happened to me. I had like a sweat stash, and I was like, I started thinking about like my face. I'm like, wait, really? Would I? And then I think they called my bluff, and then they didn't. I never got a call again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of glad now because I wouldn't want to have that like residual. Like she was the slutty wench in Australia.
That was jumping out of planes.
But if I had one thing in my life I could find, it would be that damn video.
We gotta find it,
and it's nowhere to be found.
It's not in a cloud. It's in like what are the things we used to store on the USB cord?
I know, but
I've jump drive.
I've looked.
Ooh, that makes me real. And I have a camcorder, and when I get famous one day, however I get there, I have a camcorder that I in high school recorded everything on. I mean, it was like the Blair Witch Project of just my high school years, and I cannot find it anywhere. But I'm going to find it. I know it exists somewhere. But
so do you want to get famous?
For the right things, I think. And I think at the end of the day, for me, my purpose is serving others. I know that wholeheartedly now since I've sat in my job. And if it's not serving in that capacity, then no. And everyone always tells me, you should be on a reality show. You should have a podcast. And one, I don't think I'm funny, which is hilarious to some people, but because I'm not really trying to be funny. This is just my life, which I'm glad it's a joke to everybody. But, you know, my trauma has masked, or my comedy has masked a lot of my trauma, which I have now been realizing in this health journey and healing journey that I'm on. But I think I would do good with it. I think there's a lot of people that don't do good with it, with their notoriety, and I think I would.
So I think we have the new Bachelorette Columbus
in
front of us. I think we do.
I will die.
Well, I think that the universe just keeps sending me these people, and it's like, Keri, this is supposed to be happening, like this organic matching of the local
You missed your calling.
talent. I mean, this could just
one
be
of the many.
This could just be part of what it is.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I've always loved hooking people up.
Okay.
So why can't this be just a little sprouty branch off of the Keri Croft Show?
What's your success rate?
Well, it's just one Sir Anthony right now. My whole success rate is riding on this 136-year-old dude. So I don't know how.
He's got to step it up.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so I've had a commitment to myself the last few years. Got out of a pretty tumultuous relationship, and I've said I got to take care of me. Like, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
What can I not take into the next relationship? All things inward, which is messy. I mean, healing is not linear, and whoever tells you that is full of shit. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast? And so I assembled what I call the Avengers team of healing, and all the things and all the people that I needed to be in the best headspace. So I stopped drinking, and I had committed to boundary setting, therapy. Sam Janey, I will do anything she tells me to do. Stand with upside down and throw shit in the air, I'm going to do it. So I recently started going to her trauma chiropractor, who I cannot tell enough people about. She spins and stands up on you and cracks you upside down, and you walk out and you're just like, I'm free. But then also it's like heavy because she's releasing a lot of shit. I am reconciling with my father, who I have not had a relationship with since I was 7. I will actually be spending Father's Day going to visit him this Sunday for the first time that I could remember. And also with my mother, don't have a successful relationship there either. So there's all these channels of healing and reconciliation and forgiveness that are all happening at the same time.
I love that. We should probably officially start the show, shouldn't we?
Let's do it.
Now, the positive,
that was my bit.
Hey, listen, the positive is the red button's on.
Oh, I didn't realize we were recording.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, I'm sweating now.
We're recording. Don't
Do I look okay? Because if I'm the Bachelorette,
you look like, I would say you look like a dime piece, but it's more like a quarter. I mean, you look real
Tell
hot.
everybody.
They're going to see it. They're going to see it.
Everybody, she said I'm a quarter.
My God.
Keri's the only opinion that matters. So I've heard.
So, Tina, Boulding.
Yes.
Welcome to the Keri Croft Show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
What an honor. This is just the best. My soul needed it. So
you're just so pretty.
Oh, thank you.
You know, you're just a vision over there in your flowy dress.
Yes.
You almost look like a Greek goddess.
Oh.
I'm
rebranding.
I don't even know what.
I'm rebranding.
With your nails.
Yes.
Whatever the brand is, I'm going to buy it.
Okay, tell everybody.
So how do I look?
You look great.
I'm feeling
You're giving hip hop Lima. It's giving minimal glam.
Okay,
because you don't need much.
Let's just.
And it's also like I'm a badass bitch who is just going to show up as myself.
Do you notice how I turn the show into being about me?
It should be.
I mean, come on. It's like, hi, hey Tina, nice to meet you. What's going on with me?
But it should be.
Okay, so we are just now laying eyes on one another for the first time.
I know.
And I will say, I just got your intake form, like coming in hot like a pancake today.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
No, actually, I like the challenge because normally my ideal way of framing up a show is to get the intake form, to read it, to sit with it for a couple of weeks.
Ooh.
Of course, I did this deep dive, quick thing, but I kind of like that you're keeping me on my toes today.
Yeah, but you can do it.
Absolutely.
If anybody can, too.
I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, everybody can, too.
So let's start with the trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. So I say, hey, what kind of hard things have you gone through in your life? And you basically put my childhood.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, so one, thank you for the question. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing people to show up as their authentic selves, because these podcasts are sometimes word salad. And I just watch them and I'm like, I'm not getting anything from this. So I say no to a lot of people. I would never say no to you. I grew up in a city about 20 miles north of Pittsburgh. And if people aren't familiar with Pittsburgh, there's a lot of segregated religions and cultures, a lot of Serbians, a lot of Italians, a lot of Greeks, but not a whole lot of integration of those cultures. So, picture me growing up at 6, 7 years old. I'm a biracial kid. I have a white mom and a black dad, and we're the only family on the block and for miles that looks like this. And so, young in the adolescent development years, no one was talking about race, or was I listening? No, I wanted to get a gummy bear and stick it up my nose, right? And so, I'm just here to have a good time. My parents look normal, right, from what they show you and what you have vantage point to. And then I look up one day and my dad is physically abusing my mother. And then everything else from there is just, you've now transformed what real homes look like. Because at the time I was like, oh, this is like, everything's great. And then once I realized it wasn't great, I'm like, is this how everyone else's home is? And so when I would go and stay with family or friends, I would just be like this sponge where I would just be frozen in time, trying to understand like dynamics, like why does my family look like this and your family doesn't? And then, you know, my father ended up getting into some trouble, made some pretty stupid decisions in the beginning of his criminal career, I will say, now, which are not criminal. So if I go back to the trajectory of his life, things probably would have looked a lot different if he would have gotten to the same amount of trouble in this day and age. So, you know, the one thing spilled into the other. His recidivism rate is like 135%. So every time he would get out, there'd be like a 3-week window where he'd just get into trouble again. And then, you know, everything that was correlated from that was...
And explain to the layman at home, recidivism is the
whenever
rebound
get back into prison. And God, I'm learning what that is as an adult, right? And so I remember going to visit him as a child, and we were like, we're going to go visit Dad at like day camp. And I'm 6. So I go into jail. My dad comes out in an orange jumpsuit, and I'm like, "Hey, Daddy," you know, this was normal to me. Mind you, we don't have social media. We don't have all the exposure of the world. So this is my world. I'm like, this is what everybody does. They go visit their dads on the weekends, and they have orange jumpsuits on. So that continued for a couple of years, and then it got really, really bad. He was out one year, and he had kidnapped my mom, and he tried to kill her. And at this point, I think the drug use, he was completely disconnected from his body. And so that's when he went away for a really, really long time. So he was gone for the foreseeable future. And so I think I just learned to operate in a flight, fight or flight mode for so long that it was just normal to me. Like, this is what you do. You wake up, you're tense, you're afraid, you're walking on eggshells, your mom's unstable. Is she going to be in a good mood today or not? You know, because she's raising now 3 kids on her own. I'm 7, my brother's 9, my sister's 3. I mean, could you imagine? Like, I can barely raise a plant on my own, and this woman is doing this by herself. And mind you, she didn't really have a whole lot of support from my family at the time, because they had isolated her because of the treatment my father was giving her, and they didn't really know how to support her, so they just completely disconnected from us. And I think, you know, that's how I have empathy for her, because I have to go back to that time of knowing, like, what would I have done at that age she was 30 years old, raising 3 kids. And so there's something they call an ACE test. So I can kind of generalize this. It's an adverse childhood experience test. And most psychologists that are trained well for trauma will give this to you. I'm a 10 out of 10. I probably could be a 15. But the way birth order works, my sister could be a 2 and my brother could be a 4. So these are sensitive and private conversations that we have not had as siblings, but I feel like I have the most trauma out of all of them because of the way our lives have unraveled. My brother married his high school sweetheart. My sister married her college sweetheart. They both have 2 beautiful children each. And here I am, you know, just fighting to heal one day at a time at 37 years old. So I think just by the way of that, maybe I'm just the one that's recognizing it and processing it. But if you don't deal with your shit will deal with you, and it will keep slamming you up against a wall in different forms. Sometimes it's a car accident. Sometimes it's the loss of a job. Sometimes it's just over and over, like, bad luck. I mean, these are no coincidences, in my opinion. And this was happening to me over and over and over again, growing up.
When you remember being in the house with your parents, was the physical abuse, do you remember it sort of ratcheting up and getting worse, or was it always just sort of there?
Yeah. So I think it always existed from what my mother shares with me now, because, you know, my mother and I didn't have a close relationship and still don't, and I'm now reconciling with her. We hadn't spoken in 4 years until a couple months ago. And before that, it was just always toxic and estranged. But she, I think, since they were together, it was bad. And then she kind of normalized it. Like, this is what happens in relationships. Like, if you love someone, you're in this intoxicated relationship. Like, this is just passion. I don't think she could define one versus like what was healthy. But it wasn't until the drug use started that then he started being comfortable doing it in front of us, because they hid it for years and years. And then we would go for like visitation dates, and he would like jump through the car and try and strangle my mom. And I'm like holding my sister like in the car seat, like 8 years old.
Were you ever afraid he was going to hurt you physically?
That's what was crazy. I never had 1 ounce of physical abuse from my father. And before that, perfect dad. Never missed a gymnastics meet, never missed a cheerleading competition. My brother played every sport. He coached every team. So I think he was Batman.
What was the drug use?
So his first offense was, I believe, marijuana trafficking. And then he had gotten into some harder stuff. And then his cognitive delays have never recovered. And I think people don't realize the long-term effects that drugs have on folks. So when you're re-entering the world, you're not re-entering as the person that you were when you went in. And so the rate, one, if you don't have support, is like 100%, which is why the work where I do at our nonprofit is so critical, because we serve as that support system for that gap when people get out.
Can you share anything more about how he attempted to kill your mom?
Yeah, so a couple times. So once he was following her, and he had kidnapped her and thrown her in a car and drug her through the streets for hours, and then she eventually escaped and got away. Another time, he had slit her wrist. I believe she was pregnant with my sister when this happened. But it was all like, my dad doesn't think consequential. So like it was all just real time. This is what I need to get my anger out, but never really saw the consequential aftermath of it. And then the third time was when he jumped through the window and he tried to strangle her while she was driving. She had dropped us off. My brother was at a baseball game, and he couldn't come. And my dad was obviously visibly upset. And so he had taken it out on my mother, and that was his coping mechanism.
How long did he get put away then?
Oh, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years. So what happens if you have a record, once you get to a certain threshold, the minimum you do is like 4 years, even if you steal a lollipop, the way our system is set up. And Pennsylvania is a commonwealth, so their rules are a little bit different. But at least in that state, that's how it works.
What do you think was the main reason for your anger towards your mom? Was it because she lived like that for so long and exposed you guys to it? Or was there certain things with your dynamic? Like, what was the real problem with the two of you?
I think so many things. They're so layered, right? And I'm still learning this now. And it's so cathartic to talk about this, so thank you. I think the biggest thing is, not to toot my own horn, but I was a golden child. I got straight A's. I was super athletic. I always say if I had a stable home life, I would have been an Olympian. I was paced to go to the JOs when I was about 11 or 12. And then my dad left and went to prison. And so I resented her for like letting him go, because I didn't connect of why he went to prison, right? I just saw all of the symptoms of that. Like, we didn't have any money. We had to leave our house. We had to move into the project. So I was mad at her that she left that life and took us into this other life, right? Because I had this perfect life here, and then I go, 8 miles down the road, and I'm being bullied for looking the way that I do. I no longer have a nice house. I no longer have nice shoes. And it was just, I was so resentful towards that. And I live with that truly, like every day. My brother was the same way. So
you live with the guilt of that?
Yeah.
Because now you get it.
I get it. And I think about, people that are sent to you to heal you. My assistant has 4 kids, and she's raising them on her own. And every day I come into the office, I'm like, I got it, God. Like, I see it now. But the capacity, I was always mad because she didn't have capacity, but I didn't even understand what capacity meant. I was just like, why can't you say you love me? Why can't you hug me? Like, when I come home, why can't you ask me about my day? I mean, I can count on one hand how many times she said I love you my entire life. But
to this day, is she getting better at that?
So it is a process. We are in the middle of a reconciliation point right now, but it was very abrupt. I had stepped in to help with some things that she was dealing with financially and with her health. So I'm now I call myself a single parent of an adult. So I do have a kid. I was asking God for a kid for a couple of years, and he sent me one. I gotta be a little more specific than I asked. Because I'm like, can I claim her on my taxes? Like, this is crazy.
God. Listen, not in the form of my mom.
I would love one that's like No habits, like no formable years. So yeah, we're working through it. What's hard, and also what's hard about this is my siblings, they've made their choice and those boundaries are clear. And they're not at a point where they're ready. And I won't share, their reasons because those are their stories to tell. But this is something that I need to do for me and my mental well-being. And I also don't have kids. I don't have a family that I report to. I'm not making a house decision. I'm making a Tina decision. So I think it makes it a little easier.
Yeah. So jumping back when you said that you were on track for JO, which is Junior Olympics, you were an Ohio State cheerleader, right?
Yeah.
And no slouches don't get to be Ohio State cheerleaders.
No. And what's so funny about that is my first game was the first game I cheered. So I had no Ohio State fan base, stardom, fanfare, whatever. I grew up, again, in Western Pennsylvania. I had done my undergrad at Kent State. So I cheered there for 4 years, and then I got recruited to come down to Columbus. And I'm like, Ohio State, whatever. Like, what does that mean? Who cares? People would wear those Ohio State jerseys to the game. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And then I came down and I made the team and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest thing ever. And I was like, whatever. I just don't want to get a job. I'm ready to keep going in my academic career. So I remember walking into a barbershop with my boyfriend at the time, and the barber, I had the Ohio State cheer shirt that I got when I made the team. And he said, OH. And I said, HI.
Stop it. No, you did not. Did you play it off?
Mortified.
Did you play it off?
I was like, just kidding. And my boyfriend looked at me. He's like, get out. And I'm like, okay. And then till this day, I don't own any Ohio State gear. Only the stuff I got on the first day of practice.
Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun. I was so tired, though. I mean, we don't get scholarships at Ohio State. For those of you who don't know, shameless plug. So we have to raise our own money. We have an endowment fund that does all of the interest building for the scholarship. So we are working 8 days a week. I mean, we get to the games at 7 a.m. and we have our little tattoo and our bow in, and we are fundraising for 3 hours before the game even starts. This pep rally, this tailgate, this donor wants to come and take a picture with the cheerleader. So I was exhausted. It was a learning curve because I had to learn everything about being an Ohio State fan, which I still think these people are a little nuts. It's like, get a hobby, seriously. But it's so funny because I just spoke at a coaches conference 2 weeks ago with Archie Griffin, and I had to laugh because we took this photo, and I was like, Archie, I met you before. I was singing Carmen, Ohio with you at the Sugar Bowl, and I had no idea who you were. There's a picture. That's why I sent you those pictures, because I'm like, this will help frame the story. So we're singing Carmen, Ohio, and my friend comes over to me, and she's like, you know who that was? I'm like, no. She's like, that's Archie Griffin. I said, who the fuck is Archie?
Oh my God, yeah. OHOI,
Here I am.
AEIOU.
Yeah, and I think I was also massively popular with the athletic department because I was mixed, and there hadn't been a mixed cheerleader in a very long time. So it was me and another gentleman who was African American. They sent us to everything, like every photo shoot, every press conference.
That and you're hot.
Yeah,
doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and I guess I can't say no. So boundaries are.
Did you bang any football players?
I wish.
God, at least you could.
I was so tired. I mean, you're practicing or you're lifting. I mean, I was this big. I was 104 pounds soaking wet. So they have these things called whenever you make up the team, I was on the co-ed team. So you have men and you have females. There's 22 men, 22 females, and all the flyers have to go in the air. And so when you build your pyramids, the smallest girl goes on the top layer, and there's the least amount of those on the team. So I was the top girl, then you have the middle layer. So there was a lot of pressure to stay a certain size. And I was just very lucky that that's the natural size I was. But a lot of my teammates didn't have the same natural given body that I had. So,
speaking of being mixed, you probably get mistaken for being
everything.
Like Latina.
Everything.
Mexican,
Puerto
Italian,
Rican.
because you didn't even know you were black until you were 10.
No.
And I used to think I was black. Right. So, I mean, there's something going on here. You didn't know you were black, and I didn't know I wasn't.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, I was thinking about this on the way here because I filled out that form, and I'm like, oh my God, I really went there. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it because now I truly identify as a biracial woman. And I would say a lot of me feels more comfortable in the black side of myself versus the white side. And I was thinking a lot of when that happened is a lot of the trauma that had started with my dad and my mom. So I from like 3 to 8. I don't even really remember some of the parts of that life. And then when I came up for air, as we were starting to stabilize a bit, I remember just thinking, oh, I have a tan, because my dad was in prison, right? So I'm compartmentalizing my dad in prison. So that's the black side of my life. And then we were completely disassociated with his side of the family. So now I'm being raised by my mom's white side of the family, and I have 2 siblings who look very white. Like if you saw them walking, you wouldn't really think that they had mixed background. So I'm like, oh, I just have a tan. And then I remember, and I should have put this in the intake form, we just moved into the projects. We were a couple of years in, and I met a friend called, her name was Shaquilla. And yes, that is her name. And mind you, this is like the first black name I had ever really known, because we had been uprooted out of our area where we grew up and moved into what the culture shock was just crazy. And I remember she was getting her hair done, and they were braiding her hair and they were burning the ends of it because she had weave. And so I go home and I go upstairs and I start braiding my hair, and then I'm burning my very fine white hair. And my mom smells the hair and she comes upstairs. She just said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, this is what Shaquilla did with her hair." She says, "No, Tina, like you don't have black people hair." I'm like, "Well, what's black people hair?" And that's truly kind of how the conversation started. Like, yeah, you have black and you have white inside of you. This is what black looks like. This is what white looks like. But my mom also didn't fucking know what that was. Like my mom has a high school diploma. She's not, I think, I don't know, not trained, but she's just, there's nothing inside of her social awareness and social demeanor that would know like what that meant. And then I remember we jumped around to schools a lot. I think I was in like 6 different schools in a couple of years because we were just so unstable financially. And I remember one day this kid called me ginger ale. And I'm like, what the fuck is ginger ale? And when ginger ale was Coke and Sprite mixed together. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. We're so creative. And then I would go home and I would say to my mom, like, why are these kids calling me this? And she couldn't tell me. So it was finally like, I would say 9 or 10 years old, like, oh, like I am biracial. And when people ask me, this is what I'm going to say. Because everyone was asking me. My mom was just like, just tell them you're tan. Because my mom, I think, was trying to dissociate from my father and all the trauma that was with him. And I think she associated color of his skin with everything that he had done to her. So, yeah.
Build the family of your dreams with reproductive gynecology and infertility. RGI's expert physician team has over 30 years of experience offering personalized fertility treatment plans tailored just for you. Get started today. Your future family awaits. Book now at rgiohio.com.
Yeah.
Because you would think,
yeah,
and again, no judgment,
yeah,
that she could just sit down and sort of say, you know.
No, and I think she didn't want to believe it. I think she wanted to leave that life behind and kind of move on. Because
well, when you have 3 children who are half your
you would think.
Yeah, you can't.
You would think.
You have to honor and acknowledge.
Yeah. And, you know, what's interesting is it was all different when FAFSA came around. Because she's like, on FAFSA, you are black. She was like,
we all work things to our advantage, don't we?
You are black and you are Indian. I don't care who calls you. You are black and you are Indian. It's like, okay, Mom, whatever's going to get me that Parent Plus loan interest.
That is fabulous.
Yeah,
that is fabulous. So do you think then this has affected your relationships?
Every single one of them.
Okay.
Even with myself.
So let's talk about the ones with your boyfriends. What is it?
Narcissists, all of them. No, I'm kidding.
They all suck.
They will remain nameless.
What do you do in those situations that you have now looked and said, Tina?
Run.
Do you avoid? I mean, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to avoid it for sure.
So you avoid any kind of intimacy? You think they're going to, something bad's going to happen?
100%. They may think differently, but I think I filled my life relationally with men that were safe, that I thought, right? Like they gave off safety in what I was missing, right? So I was missing not only psychological safety, I was missing financial safety in my life. And so whether they made a lot of money or they came from a good family, like I always wanted men with really, really nice families because I knew that I didn't really have that to add to the pot. Now I do have very good relationships with my siblings, but and they're also married into fantastic families. So I was like, oh, if it worked for them, maybe that's what I'll do. And then I would fall in love with the families. So then I'd be like, I don't want to break up with you because I love your mom. And I like want to celebrate her birthday with her. And so that's kind of, you know, what, and then it's completely toxic and dysfunctional. But, you know, we're also like, we're in this rush. There's this timeline. I'm getting older. Like, can I make it work? But no.
Are you more attracted to black men or white men?
Mm-hmm. I don't want to box myself in, but black men, I think there's just something, they're strong, and they give off strong, I think, intellectualism, and then like the athleticism's big for me. I'm just not asking anyone to give me anything I'm not going to give them. So I think common lifestyles are, I mean, you're not going to date someone who does CrossFit 8 days a week when you don't move your body at all. There's never going to be an interconnection there.
Because for you, I'd think, you know, a white guy, unless he had some good, like, real swag and was like,
he's got to be like, or a black man trapped in a white man's body, which I've dated.
Yes, that's like the key, right?
Yeah, but it didn't work out.
He can't be overly white, like, hey, Tina, how are you doing?
No,
Come over
I would
with like
eat
a
him
plaid
alive.
shirt and his like khakis on.
No, he's got to keep up. He's got to be able to land the joke. He's got to know what I'm talking about when I just randomly say rap lyrics. Like, he's got to, you know, he's got to get it. And that's the only way it would work, though, because that's my world.
What's your longest relationship?
3 years. I was about to say with my hairdresser, but I also recently broke up with him.
Hey.
Shout out to Mia. She's my new hairdresser.
Mia Santiago?
She's the best.
She is the best.
You got to get her on here.
She's been on.
Oh,
yeah,
of course she has.
Go all the way back to the beginning. She was back in the
she was your roots.
my home office days.
Oh, so she's part of your grassroots.
She'll be back.
Oh, good.
Mia Santiago.
Should have us on together.
Oh, for sure.
We're a shit show. It's good. And
Mia,
sober, and we're sober too.
Mia's always a good time.
Yeah, she has an interesting life too.
So okay, so let's go into your career a little bit, because where you have found, I feel,
success,
where you belong, and not that you haven't found success elsewhere, just I think you have found a home and a purpose in
healing.
What you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been a Jane of all trades truly my whole life, and I never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I just knew I wanted to own something that was mine, and I wanted to be successful. I wanted it to be people oriented. I wanted to travel, and this is before all the social influencing and all that even existed. Like, I always knew I was meant to connect with people in some shape or form. And so I did some C-suite healthcare recruiting right out of college. Hated that because I was on a phone 19 hours a day. And then I fell into some consultative work on the business development side. And then I started to randomly take on roles at cheer competitions, just judging for extra money, because I was dirt poor in my late 20s. And I had a friend reach out to me, and she's like, you should do this full time. Like, you can create a portfolio for yourself, and people will pay you by the hour, and you can go and you can tell them what's wrong with their events. You can educate them on certain things, and they'll pay you. And I was like, really? She said, yeah. So I started doing that in 2016, 17, and then it turned into a full-time gig. Like, before I knew it, I was traveling the world. I was in Mexico City. I was in Canada. Right before COVID, I was paced to go to Australia for an event, and then England, and then COVID happened. And so while this is all happening, you know, I'm teaching kids gymnastics, which is a whole other lifetime I lived, years I won't get back. And then I started teaching at the butcher shop. So I kind of like created this full-time life that was perfect for what I needed. And then COVID happened, and everything stopped within like 12 hours. So my travel manager canceled all my flights, the butcher shop closed, and the gymnastics studio closed. So I knew Stephanie, and I called her and I said, I will mop the floors, because Amy Acton told me I had 2 months, and I'd never not had a job. I mean, I delivered papers at 9 years old. So this was, I'm like, I will do whatever. Nothing is beneath me. And I ended up being able to sit in as her like chief of staff that had just resigned 3 weeks prior. Like, the worlds could not have aligned. And then I started, and I was there for a couple months, and then I went into her office, and I was like, I need to make more money, and I don't want to do this anymore. And she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, come back to me with a plan. And so I went back to my my desk, and I strategized everything that I had been good at for the last 8 years of my career. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to build your team. I want to build your fundraising team. I want to take you from here to here, and this is how much I want to make. And she said, okay. And then the social justice movement happened, and we got an unparalleled amount of money that year. It was historical. And I don't know if you know anything about her, but she's pretty extraordinary. She's got an athletic background that backs her professional life, and it's just like the perfect storm of someone that needs to be a CEO and have the bandwidth that you need to sit in that seat. And so with her social capital and our team kind of doing the behind the scenes work, we had a historical run. I always say we like made a president. Like I made her I made her a president, but we made her into this. She's just the star now, and she's everywhere. She's on CNN. She was at the White House this week. I mean, she's an incredible person to learn from. I'm a sponge when I'm around her. I don't say a peep, if you can imagine that. And then 2 years ago, we got an unprecedented gift from Mackenzie Scott's Foundation for $6.6 million. And then we had a bequest from a long-term donor for $4.4 not long after that. So mind you, this is a historical organization. It's been around for 100 years. She's the first female president ever in history. And she's picking up a mess when she gets there in 2013. And then in COVID, we didn't let a crisis go to waste, and we ran with it. And so I have a team of 9 now that reports to me, and I have a really cool role, and it gives me some flexibility. And is the most important work I'll ever do because it's helping me heal my relationship with my father. I mean, I don't do the direct service delivery, but I raise the money and I tell the story to the people that want to invest in this mission. And I also, have gotten to know these people. I've gotten to know these clients. I've gotten to know these coaches, coordinators. I go into the prisons. I listen to the stories. I'm very hands-on, so I can tell the story well. And now I can support my father in the way he needs to be supported.
So go back a little bit. So Columbus Urban League, like what is the mission?
So we serve a very niche population of people, disenfranchised groups and marginalized groups of people. So I think the most common mistake people hear, or not common mistake, but I would say the most misconception heard about our reputation is we just serve poor Black people, and that is not what we do. We help entrepreneurs that are trying to make their first $1 million. We help people that are making 6 figures that don't know how to manage their money. We help people that are displaced citizens. We have youth programming. And so I think that, we are now trying to transform our brand from a civil rights organization to a wealth building corporation, because that's truly what we do. We help people build wealth.
And what is the prison component of it? You're helping people re-enter into society.
So the social enrichment piece is not only that. We help justice-involved youth that are on the brink of going into the court system. We help them through a program called STEP, and then we have our re-entry program, which is now helping women and men. It was primarily just men, and now we help women as well. And we don't do any hard crimes, so none of the big stuff. But maybe drug trafficking or something more misdemeanors than anything. We're not going to do any of the hard shit because that's not our fight to fight.
Yeah. Well, what about this diversity and inclusion sort of? What do you want to call it? Do you want to call it backlash, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it? So what I find a lot of times when something big happens, whether it's the bottom falls out of the real estate market, or you have George Floyd, or something huge happens, and then all of a sudden we swing as far as we can over in one direction, and so then all of a sudden now, instead of maybe just like coming a little bit over and going, okay, this is kind of what it's going to settle into with diversity and inclusion.
Right. Realistically.
Now people are trying to say, oh, diversity and inclusion, this is terrible and it's racist. And what is the...
I think the political climate has a lot to do with that too. So I think let's not forget what we're in right now. We're coming up on a pretty big election that's going to decide a lot of things for us. So, in my seat that I sit in, I think what it is it all comes down to money, and it's the first to go. So if, you're trying to make budget cuts, that's something that is maybe not a priority for folks, which is crazy because how could diversity, equity, inclusion not be the priority of your business? You want your employees to feel safe. You want your brand to feel safe and inclusive. And so I think it will be telling over the next, 6 months, 5 months before this? Oh my God, that's crazy.
It's going to be a civil war, probably.
We're not prepared. We're too lazy.
No.
I think people talk about, we're going to go to war. It's like we get groceries delivered to our doorsteps.
When I say civil war, I mean, it'll be pretty sloppy.
Yeah, and lazy. Like we're going to bow out within minutes.
I mean, but diversity, equity, inclusion, in my opinion, isn't just like black or white.
No, it's LGBTQ, it's neurological diversity.
Yeah, it's ageism.
It's ageism.
It's female. I mean,
it's like so broad.
How you cannot support that,
right?
And it blows my mind.
And if you don't support that, you're telling me that you don't believe in the way the world is moving, and you're telling me that you don't believe as humans. You categorize them and you label them based off of their race, based off their sexual orientation, and you don't believe in them as a human as a whole, because that's what they are.
Yeah, or you're not looking deep into it and really understanding the intent and what it is. Like DEI is not set up or intended to be racist against a white male.
No.
That's not what the intent was.
So
when you have like Elon Musk and these big ballers swinging their dicks around talking about
just kidding, in case you want to give us money. You're
just
great.
Kidding, Elon, you sexy animal, you.
Just kidding.
But talking about it, try to take this whole reverse racism approach.
Right.
Okay, pump the brakes here, partner. It's not intended to then swing the ball in the direction of like alienating the white male.
And everyone's so defensive. It's like, why are you so defensive about something you don't? I would never speak up on a platform or in general over something I don't understand. Just ask questions. No, this isn't an I gotcha. Ask questions about it. What don't you understand? I might not understand it either. And I work in it.
Yeah.
4 years in.
It's human nature, right? It's people protecting themselves and saying, oh, wait, they're trying to, make the white man extinct. And if you look at it and take a very broad stroke like that and you look at it from a fear perspective, but to your point, you do have to look deeper into it.
Yeah.
It's not that.
And it's like you're looking at a symptom of something versus looking at like the source of it.
Yes.
So stop looking, look at the back of the problem instead of the front of the problem. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay. Are you looking for a man?
I think, well, I date.
Ooh, you're dating?
I date. The problem is they fall in love really fast and then I run. So
you have them at hello.
Yeah, I don't know about hello, maybe like what's up. I don't know, but I and I'm okay with I'm not picky. Like I say that because I want what I give. Like, I don't need your money. I don't want it. I had a gentleman, he was trying to invite me somewhere. He will remain nameless. And he's like, I'll fly you out. I was like, why would you do that? He's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, what? I'll pay for the flight. And maybe when I was younger and I was poor, yeah. And it's like fun and loose and whatever. But I was like, I'm not going to create that dynamic right now, is that I need anything from you. So I think I'm always looking, but right now I'm just like, everything is inward. I'm not actively pursuing. Sam always gets on me. She's like, we got to create this account for you. But I was like, there's just so much trash on these accounts, like these dating apps.
I got your account right here.
Yeah,
the Keri Croft Show.
And I'm on Raya, which is trash.
Yeah.
Sorry, Raya. I still give you my money, so it doesn't matter. And I've met fantastic men that don't live here. And so the problem is they're either too young, like 22, 23, they're a Columbus Blue Jackets player, and they're just here for 3 months out of the year, however long their season is. I don't follow hockey. Or they're not my type. So I think all the men that on there I would connect with, they don't live here. I just went on a date with one last week. I'm like, fuck. Okay, see ya. Never. Well, what do we do? I just want to meet someone who's not corny, but maybe a little nerdy. I would love someone that knows his numbers, knows how to manage a budget, has good skincare, works out, isn't a huge partier because I'm in bed at 9 p.m., loves family, and just knows where he's going and doesn't necessarily have to be there because I'm not there either. I've got a lot of things I want to do before I turn 40, and I just need him to know where he's going. And then I want to date within my action bracket. I want to date someone who's going to show up the way that they say they are. And I think, I'm a lot, and that's intriguing, and it's mysterious for men. And then they're like, oh no, this is like you. You are full throttle. Like every day you wake up and you do it. I think that's a lot.
What the hell they want? You laying on the couch?
I think it's intimidating for men.
Too bad. You only want the ones that like it.
Yeah. I think it's intimidating for a woman to be sure of herself. So I'm trying to weed out those men that are insecure about it, because that has always been the driving issue in all my relationships, is the insecurities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to have to talk offline more about this. We're going to put a little clip out. Okay. Clippy poo.
I love it.
And we'll do a little poll, and we'll see what kind of engagement.
Should I take my clothes off? What do you need from me?
You know what? Do you still have your Ohio State Buckeyes
I can get
cheerleading
it.
costume.
I don't know if it'll fit, but I can get it.
I'm going to have you get it. I'm
I
going
can
to
get
have
it.
you do
I'm not
the
wearing the bow, though.
OHAEIOU and sometimes Y.
Oh my.
We'll do whatever
I can do whatever. Listen, I am very coachable. I love being told what to do despite what people may think.
Okay, we're going to do this. And then I want some butcher shop passes.
Yeah.
I need to
Why don't you have them?
Well, you know what?
Best workout.
So I don't know yet.
Okay.
I would like. So
Come in.
Before System of Strength, I fell in love with Pilates.
Okay.
Fell in love with Pilates.
Okay.
And that was kind of the big driver for High and Tight at System of Strength. I love a megaformer. I love an actual Pilates. I love a Pilates actual Cadillac.
Yes.
Chair, barrel, all of this.
Okay.
So I'm starting to branch out a little bit.
You
guys are opening in Grandview, right?
Yeah, in like a month or so.
What's your owner's name?
Phoebe.
She'll
take care of it.
She's
good people.
Send me some passes. Get me over there. I'm ready to get. I'm ready to get some. Whatever the cuts is.
It's so egregious.
Give me some lean cuts.
Let me cut you up. Let me cut your meat. And the way they train us, we talk about it like puns.
I mean,
I don't want to talk about them like they're kebabs.
Well, but you know what?
Squeeze your ass, squeeze your core.
Here, listen, give me that lean chop, bitch.
Literally.
What else can you think of before we wrap up?
I think what's next for me, because I want to keep putting it out into the universe. I'm writing a kid's book.
Oh, nice.
And I've been talking about it for a couple of years. I've been socializing it in my networks, professionally and personally. And so I've got the green light from my siblings because it's, it goes into a little bit of our upbringing. And I can't reveal the name because I'm still working on the trademark of it. But I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it.
Hold on. Let's say that again and take out the think.
I'm going to do it.
There you go.
And I'm taking some time off. Next week, I'm going to do a brain dump. I'm going back home to Pittsburgh, see my dad for Father's Day. And for the first time, by the way, ever. I think I said that in the beginning. I'm going to do a brain dump. I'm going to revisit all the homes that I grew up in to kind of get it and feel it and what do I want the story to tell, because even though it's a kid's book, I want it to be authentic to who I am and what I have to share. And the meaning behind it is there's so many kids that are like me that don't know, that realize that they think they're the poorest kid and they have nothing to look forward to. And when I tell my story to kids, they're like, what? What do you mean this happened to you? And I want kids to know that no matter what you're born into, you can climb out of it and you can turn your pain into payment. And that's what I'm going to do.
What do you feel inside when you think about visiting your dad?
Hope. He has recently been rearrested. So he was out for 2 years. And I'm so sad because I wanted to start a TikTok with me and him. And we were just going to chill. And he was going to share his story and we were going to get to know each other. And I was hopefully going to be able to shed some light on this for other folks that are going through something similar. And then he made a bad mistake a couple weeks ago.
What's he getting into now? Is it just drug related?
No, now he's just stupid. He's just stupid. He has no resources. So, I mean, I went and visited him over Easter back in Pittsburgh and had just gotten his license back since 1994. Can you imagine? He had gotten a job. He was laying tile. He was fixing up a house. My dad is very handy. He could build a house from the ground up. And he had shared, he had gotten into a relationship with someone and he had shared an argument that they had gotten into it, but he was not very transparent in the story because a couple weeks later he had gotten arrested for some falsifications of things that he did. So I'm going to go see him, say knock, knock on the plexiglass. But now I'm okay. I don't have any anxiety. And I think it's because my routine is working, my healing routine. That's how I know it's working. And I'm excited to see him. I don't know whoever would say that, but I'm excited. I'm going to bring him a card, put some money in his commissary so he can do all the things. But so I have the book coming out. I'm going to Paris for the Olympics, which I'm really excited about. Well, you have, unbeknownst to yourself, signed yourself up for my personal board of directors because I've been challenged by one of my mentors to do that. And I've been looking for somebody in the entrepreneurship space, and you've done it.
Hey, Insies.
And then I'm going to find a husband at the same time. So
I think this is all the universe in the works.
I think so too.
Well, Tina, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're such a beautiful curation of strength, softness, confidence. You have a real vibe going on. I'm feeling a lot of positivity.
Thank you. Those are the words I should have put down when I think of myself. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm looking forward to this relationship just
Me
starting
too.
to. And I want you to get Stephanie's booty in here.
Oh,
She's
she will.
She's not too big for the Keri Croft Show. Okay, Stephanie, you hear me?
She will bust your balls.
Oh,
she will bust her own balls.
Listen,
She's good.
There's nothing I love more than an intimidating
No.
human, especially another woman who can just check me against the wall.
Yes, and the best thing about her is you never know who her enemies are. So she never hurts your feelings because she can just carry a room and she's at 60 miles an hour and she doesn't go up or down.
I love that. Well, thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you for having me. Oh, it went by so fast.
I know.
I'm sad.
Hey, time flies when you're having fun.
I know, I'm sad.
And if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep moving, baby. Hee, get me to the butcher shop. Lean my ass out. I need to work these glutes. Min, Meads, and Maximus.
I didn't even know what a glute max was until I started working there. Like, what
I just know there's 3 of them.
What is a fucking glute max?